players from runners-up last year, isn't it? That's what we're dealing with. Just if people aren't aware of what happened, basically this team was with an org, and then they weren't with an org, and they just kind of were just in the void for about a good 9 months there, pretty much.
Floating around space.
That was it. And it was a shame. It was a shame. Joystick is easily, you could put in probably top 5 players ever play the game. I don't think no one's challenged me on that. I don't think anyone can challenge, say this guy has not earned his right in the Hall of Fame. There's no way.
To be honest, there's only me that can challenge it, because I'm the only other person here right now, and I'm not going to challenge it.
I mean, if people want to challenge me, there's also other forms to do so. If anyone needs my Skype, I'll be happy to give that out.
Skype!
Anyone needs that? BBM, again, I'm there for it. I'll get the BlackBerry out.
The thing is, you make jokes about me being old. You're showing your age right now.
How's that showing my age? I'm not old. You're old.
I'll tell you what's getting old. Permaban Nook.
There it is. Actually, maybe it's not old for me. I love it.
Yeah, you're a bit of a fan of the old Permaban. I mean, it was a piece that we did of the last game, wasn't it? It was like, this is why you ban your Nooks. Mm-hmm. Thatcher, Nook, Azami, all removed here from play. Mirror to top things off as well. So, not to put too much sort of weight into this matchup demo. However, this is the only chance that we've got of anybody that participated in last year's grand final at Six Invitational of being at SI.
Whoa. You're forgetting someone.
Who am I forgetting?
Gio.
Okay.
You silly boy.
Okay, we forgot Gio. But
no. Don't say no. You've said we. Don't even think about that.
Okay, but point still stands. There aren't very many players left that played in last year's final.
Correct. One. Correct.
We've got one. It'd be nice to have at least 2, and we can't have 2. We've got to have more than 2.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, look, it's the closest thing we'll get, isn't it? I mean, the thing is as well, like the whole TSM situation with them being knocked out, it just furthers the point that there'll never be another back-to-back champion in this game.
Attackers are moving out.
There never will be.
No.
Like even back-to-back, like not necessarily invites back-to-back, but just tournaments back-to-back. I know people will say like, oh, BDS are going to be, like even BDS will struggle. Like even winning this competition. It's not going to be a walk in the park for BDS. We know that.
Yeah, it's not going to be a walk in the park for anybody. Nobody at all. Maker's going to be starting off on the attack here. Chalet. Was a good map for Makers.
It is. It's a good map for most teams. Good map for most teams.
I think it's a map that most teams have warmed to over the time that it's been here in the pool. I'm kind of liking the lineup that we see here from Makers. Quite a lot of aggression coming in. We've got the Ying, Candelas just clearing on out. Lolo's actually getting himself straight in as well. We're playing in at the top of Solar. He's, of course, being covered quite nicely. We've got a nice cross on both of the windows, but Joystick shuts Acme down off that main window. It's going to be a big problem. That's an important rotate that you need to keep control of as an attacker, and without it, well, things get a little bit difficult.
Yeah, very strange from Makers at the moment. I'm looking at their lineup, and I think this should be a very, rush strategy where you ying big window, Amaru goes in through big window, plants on big window, Capital tries to cover Fangles, you try and take Solar. It's generally a rush strategy that you try and go for, but Makers haven't went for that. They've played it slow. Amaru hasn't used the gadget. She's just being used to go for the plant. Dan, can you deny from below? No, you cannot. Diffuser's being planted. Makers, what can they do in the post-plant? Outsiders need to respond. Shepard, there's a man that I'm sure we'll get stuck into over the course of the game, Ollie. We'll save that for a bit yet, but he's somebody you need to watch out for. Dora goes down. Now 2v5. Again, Diffuser's planted in a good position. Capital arrows, Ollie. Is that going to be enough? You've got one of them. That'll stall at about 10 seconds. Patcher finds Gemini. Now it's all down to Sori. Get your fire out. Can he nail it? No, he body blocked it. Are you kidding me? Surely not. No, he hit it. He did hit it. Oh my goodness, surely not. Already a calamity.
Shepard. Has he got enough time for this? I didn't get a good look at when he got onto it.
Oh my goodness.
By the millisecond, misses out. What a play.
No, I'm done. I don't want to be here already. I don't want to be
Round
here.
1 and Demo is already in the bin.
I thought, okay, Capital on the window. You've got an arrow. Is that going to be enough? I honestly thought whenever he went to peek and aim it, I thought the alibi body blocked it. That's what I actually just seen there, but he didn't.
It looked like it did, though.
I thought it body blocked. And then
it looked like it body blocked.
And then he died, and then I seen that people were losing damage. Oh my, just...
I think we're going to get a replay of this now.
Here we go.
Just did it? It just slipped Party.
Oh.
The best thing about that round is that Mkers won the round. He didn't get a single kill. I don't think I've ever seen that Demo.
It has been a long time since that's happened.
Win a round, don't get a single kill. Challenge impossible unless you Mkers.
I'm trying to think, has this ever happened before? Surely it's happened. It has to have.
Not a single kill. More importantly, not a single kill. Everybody on their team died as well.
Like,
I've never seen it. It's one for the books.
One thing as well I have to mention is look at how Mkers attacked that. It wasn't a rush strategy. Like, Amaru repelled in a window, didn't swing in it with a Gara hook, repelled in. They were just like, it just seemed like the most simplest take you could go for. And it worked. Just go next.
Certainly a strange one.
I hate this game so much, you know that? I hate it.
The thing that Mkers did, they brought a lot of options for themselves. You know, they didn't necessarily need to use the utility in the way that they did. They could have used it differently. It was lucky, wasn't it? It worked for them. I saw the kills coming through for outsides, and I thought, nah, you know what? This is likely just going to peter out. Nice little Amaru up through the hatch there off the back of some good information, coupled with a lion scan as well. But that's all Lolo will see as the kills once again come flying in here for outsiders. We've held the man count advantage throughout this game so far. Granted, we've only seen a couple of rounds. A little bit of smoke there to cover off those solar stairs. Lion scan has just gone off as well. Mkers. Not interested in map control here, Demo. They're just looking for straight gunfights.
I mean, they're just trying to do as little as possible, aren't they? Like, both attacks now, they've shown their hand that they will be playing with a bit of flair, a bit of skills involved with the operators that they've chosen, with the attacks that they went for. Shepherd's got 3 kills. Make that 4. This man. Can we talk about this man now? Because he's made his return. I know I said, oh, Joystick has to have, you know, his say in the Hall of Fame. Shepherd's very close to that as well. He, I think, for the longest time, for probably from about 2019 to 2020, probably the best support in the world.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think he was a support that a lot of players looked up to. A support that a lot of players tried to emulate.
He got MVP again, like at the Rally Major, didn't he?
He's just been around for so long. He's one of those real old school supports. You know, this is where you're looking at him playing Smoke, Mute, these kind of operators. He usually got a shotgun in his hand, usually busy as
SMG,
like,
something. And
this is what he's all about.
And the thing is as much as we talk about Joystick's success, who's always right behind him? It's always been them two. It's always been those two since the beginning.
Yeah, exactly.
Can't think of one without the other. You know, it's like Demo and X. You can't do it.
But the total opposite ends of the player base as well. You know, we've got Joystick who can play very aggressively, very, you know, incredible amounts of game sense and gun skill. And that's not to say that Shepherd doesn't have that, but he's usually one of the last alive. Eddie's often lumbered with the diffuser and all these sorts of things, at least in iterations that we've previously seen, whereas that is less of Joystick style. So to have that sort of real solid front and back, it does lead quite well.
And then Dan's in the mix. We haven't mentioned Dan yet. Ollie,
could keep going.
Pasha, who I think has been a very steady rock for the past 2 years in his competitive career.
Attackers have located a bomb.
Mate, where do you begin? Here
Starts with a lineup for sure.
Here we go with Mkers again. Solar take, Ollie.
It's not the same because they haven't got the Amari, they haven't got the Ying, and they haven't got the Capital. So they're going for something a little bit different, and that looked like just a straight up, I'm going to blindly walk on into bathroom. Immediately, Aqui has been taken down. Not seeing any success so far on the entry. There's a lot of util to lose as well. Your only set of nades. Obviously, the ability to set out the Ayana clone and gather a little bit of information as to what's going on ahead. Look how static outsiders are as well. They know exactly what the play is here.
Nades, flashes, all can come into the mix, but they've lost their nades, which is probably the only downside of getting Aqui in quick is, yes, you once they get in there and get stuck in, but if you have the nades and you die, quite a good chunk of utility gone, Ollie.
It is. The problem with only bringing one set, I guess, as well, is you are going to leave yourself a bit light. Is Dan going to go for a bit of a run out here? It looks as though he caught one air jab, but not the second. Fortunately, on the Oryx, he can correct that wrong and yeet himself back into the building quite quickly. Joystick still looking to challenge on this long angle. There is still that threat from the double window, but once again, Joystick wins the gunfight. That's the second time he's picked somebody off that big window. Lolo coming in with a direct trade here onto Always, but Dora gets itchy feet, wanders on forward and straight into the line of sight of Joystick. Lolo caught out in a frost mat, unlikely to be recovered here. Sorry, he's got quite a bit of work to do. Dan does keep himself alive for the time being.
Yep.
It's going to be a tight one, though.
It is. It's definitely doable, I think, from Dan's perspective, especially if he knows that Lolo, who... Right beside you, mate. Look to your... Well, this is awkward. I don't think he cares. Awkward. I don't think he cares, but Dan's just focused on getting that diffuser. There we go. Finally gets Lolo. And that's just a straight 1v1 shootout. Sorry, has no flashbangs. Has that skeleton key, Ollie, that he could just click to, and that's going to help him in these close-range engagements. Down with the pre-fire. Knows Reyes comes to red pings, but sorry, gets the better of him. That extended barrel, Ollie, does that make a difference? Big damage, perhaps?
You were saying about this extended barrel earlier, yeah. You're a bit of a tin hat. You're a bit of a conspiracy theorist. You've got your tinfoil hat on and you're crunching the numbers in the dark, but the extended barrel, of course, dealing a little bit more damage now. It
15%.
The old how many bullets it's going to take you out of the game.
It makes some guns go from 3 bullets to 2, which I felt that already. I've seen a difference with some of the guns. Mostly, of course, on like the slower rate of fire, like heavy hitting guns. But because they have a slower rate of fire, like your damage per second is going to go up because of the increased damage. So it helps, like, you know, your Kaids, your Frosts, even your Jaegers, I think, all like, quite a lot. Thorn, those kind of guns, really good now.
Mkers getting themselves around back there. Again, look at the kill spread on the side of Mkers. Got Lolo on 3 kills so far. Everybody else on 1 bar Aqui. Really not a high kill game, and that first round is obviously going to play quite heavily into that. There's 5 kills essentially that are missing off that tally at the moment for Mkers, given that they pulled off an impossible feat. But on the flip side, you are expected to win a couple of your attacking rounds here on Chalet. It is a map that you see a lot of opportunity for the attackers, just the flexibility.
I mean
we haven't even seen a Heart Breach yet demo.
Look at the bans, though. I think that also plays into attackers should be winning. Azami and Mira, both for the... I would say the operators have changed, where they can obviously redecorate the environment and can really assist the defenders a lot of the time. More so for this bomb site, I feel, more than any. Bar is a tricky one if Mira's up. You can place the Mira on top fireplace. If Azami's up, you can clutter the entire library on the kind of like little showcase boxes for those. I don't even know, is the books in those? Something like that? You can clutter a whole lot of it. So it makes it very, very tricky. But with those gone, you would expect a much easier time for the attackers. I think nades haven't been as dominant as what I think they maybe should be. But then again, you're dealing with a Wama. You're dealing with Jaeger still being out. Wama is another one that sometimes, if it's up, it can cause issues for the attackers.
So the fire arrows come in now just to force Joystick out of the way. Waiting for some more Wama discs to potentially regenerate. Always going to be holding on to the window as well, but he's going to be first out of here as the collapse comes in. Dora has picked himself up 3. So the Outsiders just lined up for him there, Demo. Let themselves get taken out one by one. The Ducks all in a row. Shepard making his way up to the top of these library stairs, now knowing he has to do something about this, given that he's in the clutch. But it is not to be. A flawless round here from Mkers. Sorry, just waiting for the info. Nice little pre-fire there onto the top of the stairs. Scary stuff there if 3 people are dying by one fell swoop, Demo.
Yeah, quintessential round from all accord from Mkers. Straight to the point. That's the way it's supposed to be played. Good round for anyone if you're struggling with those attacks. Have a look at that. You can see that they have almost a kind of a crossroads of crossfires being established where you have players jumping in library, you have players pushing in towards blue stairs. The main man had to have been that buck coming in from lobby. That was the key that we had to look for. On that defense, it's very easy for, I think, defenders just to get kind of sucked in to only defend library, and that's all you have to worry about. One thing you always have to do, keep the defenders on their toes, is attack from another angle. Hit them from another part of the map that they're maybe not ready for. And of course, that comes from the guy in lobby. He's picking up kills where the players aren't even looking at him. He's getting kills by shooting players in the back, a backstabber. That's the real key there that won it for Mkers. Just that one little adjustment. A very basic thing to do, but you'd be surprised at how little some teams forget that, yeah, you can actually do that.
Often main door's something that gets heavily watched as well by the Fireplace player, so it shows that the distraction was there elsewhere.
Of course, yeah, of course.
Mkers were applying enough pressure in other avenues. Always. He is trying to get the bulletproof into the bookcase there.
Shoot the book out first, see if that helps you.
There it is.
I mean, that one's a bit...
Probably not quite as he wants it, but
yeah.
Time's of the essence at this point. He's already spent the entire prep phase and 25 seconds of the start of the rounds played.
Oh,
and it doesn't look like they're going to have the time Demo, because this has Rush written all over it. Gonzig pointed at a castle barricade. Gemini first through. Cut down. 1-2. Taken out by Sorry. Yeah, the Candela's going off in the distance as well. Acqui joins into the party, finally picking his first 2 kills up of the game. Pasha, the Warden, in no man's land. Currently hiding out on the site, but that's not where the action's happening, my friend. The action is all happening fast and heavy upstairs. It's going to slow down for the time being, though. Mkers are very fortunate here, and Sorry's done a good job of keeping himself alive because they've still got the book, which means they've still got a lot of that soft destruction. And despite the opening burst of energy into this round, they can now take the pressure off a little bit, and they can just relax into it, knowing they've got this vertical control, open up the angles, and start to work it from there.
This is my kind of siege, Ollie. And I like the game plan that Mkers have went for. Outsiders for me, I think it's just Russian teams in general. They're not the quickest teams to like change up their strategies and adapt to rushes. I think what you see is what you get with these Russian sides. And I think Outsiders is no different. The rushes are going to work against them. You know, I think that's a reason also where the meta's shifted, where it's not as rigid and streamlined as what it used to be. Think back to whenever some of these players were playing. It was, you know, you're dealing with, okay, there's a shield, we have to burn for the shield with a nade, and then we have to go for all those steps. You knew exactly what you were doing. In this meta, rushes have been more dominant over the past year. We've seen the likes of Ying really come into the forefront of things. Lion has been a big one. All these different operators just spell doom, in my opinion, for some of these more rigid sides, and I think Outsiders are one of them, and they're going to keep getting caught and caught and caught by these quick strategies that Mkers aren't playing.
It's true. As much sort of kudos as we give to some of the more experienced players that have come to Outsiders, you have got to remember that they were, you know, players in a different era.
Exactly.
And Siege has moved quite a long way in only the last, you know, sort of 18 months. You look at the changes that were put forward before last SI, and you think what we're looking at now going into the next SI, you think, you know, the game is a-changing. And if you've been out of the game for even 9 months, it can really be quite significant. Obviously, they play the game. Like, these people are playing the game all day, but it is different when you know that you're going to be coming up against a sort of a young Italian side that are willing to make those changes, that are willing to try things, and that by their very nature, they thrive in that chaos. They thrive under that pressure. And it's demonstrated with the way that they like to play the Siege. The ability that they've got to rush the start of a round and then to take the foot off the gas and to see it through and correctly play the ending of the round out as well, and not just streamline into that finish, not just steam forward onto that finish line, is very impressive from Mkers. Yeah. Currently 4-1 up. It's looking a little bit scary, I'm going to be honest.
And again, I look at Outsider setup. It's exactly the same as what they've been doing, isn't it, for this top floor? They have the castle barricades, they open up these holes. This is where now, I think, Mkers, you've seen this enough times, surely you should have an idea what you need to do now. If I'm looking at this castle setup, they tried solar last time, it didn't work for them. I just think you just go from library. There is nothing on library side that you should be scared of. You don't have to worry about going for Izami. You've got, what, a shield on top blue, and it's one guy by himself. There's nobody roaming downstairs in kitchen. You don't have to worry about that side of things where... actually, there is... Oh, wait, there is a guy in kitchen. You don't have to worry about... Sorry, let me rectify. Okay, now I've dug a hole here. You don't have to worry about bar players, because Dan's not going to leave his position, because Dan knows he needs to be there in case they do go for the solar take. I think you just go from library. I don't think the solar takes is good for Mkers, because I feel as though that's where Outsiders want you to push. I like this though from Akwi. Having the lone man downstairs, if he wins this one against Always, it opens up the entire map, and that means Outsiders are fighting on two different fronts.
Well, Akwi is going to be on the chase there. Sorry, is in with the pinch. Able to find that opening kill yet again here. A little bit of boost up from a bit of a throwback operator there. We don't always get to see Finker in the mix, but it's working well enough here and now. Lolo going to find himself another piece of the action here, but Shepard, Solar as ever on the site, is able to buy it back. He needs a bit of support though. Goes for the peek onto Akwi, but that LMG, it might have been nerfed, but it's still fearless in the face of battle. You don't want to be getting yourself in the way of it, as proved once again. Joystick 3 for 3 on the big window angle, but now he's got 3 more to find. The diffuser going down, and he's on the UMP. Akwi going to be holding the long, and I don't even think he reloaded for any of those 4 kills that he was able to pick up there, Demo. But that's exactly why you play the Finker. Another good round there coming through from Mkers. As you say, they're not making things as easy as they possibly could be, but what they're doing is working.
Yeah, I think that comes down to lack of refrag potential there from Outsiders. Dan is by himself. There's nobody else downstairs with him. Nobody. You have, what, 3 players in sight? What we see now, I think, for that top floor, I've always, I've been a big sayer of don't go top floor. It's horrendous. And I think the way that Outsiders defended that just proves it. Unless you go for a full roam, where you have about 4 players off site and maybe only 1 guy in the site, you're going to get cooked. And I think the issue is with Outsiders is they probably think themselves, we can't go for the heavy roam because if we leave only 1 guy in sight, we know we're playing against a team who goes for these pocket rushes and we can get caught on that side of things. I think this matchup is very tricky for Outsiders to read into. And they're just getting things wrong at the moment. It's either they go all out and they get rushed, or they back off and they give Mkers entire map control and they get slaughtered in sight because there's no safe places to sit.
Something needs to happen, and it needs to happen quickly. Outsiders do have the ability to take a timeout here. I'm kind of surprised they haven't done already. Even just to recompose themselves, but they have changed sides now, so we could see a little bit of different fortune here on the attack. But it just feels like one of those games where the problems are running a little bit deeper than who is on which side. I'm sure everything will become clear over the course of the next couple of rounds, though, as we see how Outsiders want to try and approach this. Likewise, Mkers sat here knowing that they have a comfy buffer at the moment of 4 rounds, can choose to play a little bit more aggressively than they may normally do.
Well, Outsiders. This is it. This is where you need the big game players to step up. They have plenty off the molly. There should be no issues. Oh, maybe they don't have the experience. They're the most experienced side in this competition. They should be on top of their game for today. But right now, they are staring down a barrel of a very quick first map defeat. And I think the confidence Mkers are going to have now, and I think for that a young side Ollie, with a bit of momentum behind themselves. Look at Eminem last year, Ollie. If you're on a run and you're on a run of form, there's nothing stopping you.
Exactly. I'd really like the tradition to continue of the team that wasn't
the non-EUL team. The non-EUL team gets in.
The Challenger League team, qualifying into SI, because I feel like it strengthens the pool a lot deeper. I'm not really. That's not to say that I'm cheering for Mkers here. I'm not really cheering for anybody, but I think it's a nice little thing that we've got going on in EU at the moment. Kills trading 1-for-1 so far, as Outsiders clearly feeling the pressure here of these attacking rounds. It looks as though they're almost a little bit cautious to do anything. We're seeing Joystick there. Does win himself an engagement onto those library stairs, but he's basically one shot. It is 3 versus 2, but with Joystick's HP, it's essentially a 2 versus 2 here. He's really not long for this world if he gets himself into an engagement. 40 seconds left to go, and still quite a bit to burn through here, Demo. Fortunately, they do have a couple of throwables.
I think they have to try and isolate a player, which they haven't done because now the man advantage is gone. It's a 2v2. Don't isolate Gemini. They give him his 1. He wins it because he has the deployable shield. Bad decision making there from Outsiders. You still had, about 40 seconds there, and you could have then try and double up. You know there's going to be a man behind that shield. Take the trade, stick one guy on piano window, make sure he can't run back across, have the pitch come in from top fireplace, have the pitch come in from blue, force him back, or if he just stays and dies, trade the kills and take your man advantage. But they didn't do that. They started rotating by themselves. They took swings. You lose the man advantage, you're done. That was just that from Outsiders. I don't think that they took the man advantage well there in that 3v2.
It's a shame because they're almost slow when they shouldn't be and too quick when they should be slow.
Yep.
I'd have loved to have seen a rotation come at that last point when it was 3 versus 2. We've got Joystick on library stairs. He knows that he's more of an information gathering tool at that point than he is, going to be getting into a gunfight. Obviously, everyone's always one shot in Siege, but Gemini knew where he was playing and he was challenging onto a deployable. Like, that's an incredibly difficult angle to win. So you've really got to sort of take the bull by the horns there. This is something that we didn't get to see too much of, Demo, in our first game of the day. The Solace.
Solace. Are we going to do a little
Kenny
Solace
played
highlight?
it once on Theme Park, I think.
Yeah.
But it wasn't played in this sort of way. It wasn't played by the sort of, air quotes, entry player. Yeah.
So Solace, great operator. Obviously very unique in what she performs. Drone killer. That's her nickname. The same way we talk about Monty being the human drone, she's the drone killer. She is out there making sure there's no information being gained. Not only that, people may think, oh, she's just there for drones. Really good for figuring out where teams are starting to set up their pushes from. Remember, you can see a lot of gadgetry. You can see where teams are throwing their drones at. Then okay, they're pushing this side of the map. It's good for spotting claymores. You can see nukes if they're crouch walking. You can see Jackal if he's using his gadget. There's a lot of potential here for solos. They get a good bit of information. Usually we see solos bans come in for specific teams, as in, not in terms of you're banning it because teams are really good at solos. Everyone's good at solos. It's for the teams that don't want to play against the solos that you usually see those bans come in for. Oh dear.
It was almost going to be a picture-perfect clip of how to use Solace. Knowing that somebody is on the drone, aggressing forward toward the window. The timing just wasn't quite there. And Joystick has battered him back.
You don't mess with the stick.
I mean, you can't mess with Joystick. The damage has been done in terms of the drone utility, although we've still got 8 left, so it wasn't all too successful. Joystick now going to be allowed to enter on into office as well. Sorry, just going to dip himself back out here. Throws the C4 long, but he too is getting pinched. Great swing over onto Joystick. Picks 1, does a load of damage onto Pasha. Dips himself into some sort of safety. Dan comes through, though, on the Jackal. No Enox tracker required. He knows exactly where he is. Can save that for a little bit. Moves on through into Solar. Pasha really counting his lucky stars that he was able to stay alive there. Outsiders somehow managed to clear out that roam game and remain at a level footing. Although, looks as though Lolo has rotated back upstairs. That Oryx can be very tricky to deal with.
Yeah, that's the player I think we're probably watching now for, is that Kaid. He's going to have to figure out what he wants to go for. Does he come back to site, play the crossfires? I mean, typically, if you're losing players for the basement attack, it's going to be a little bit hit or miss here because there's a lot of angles you need to cover and you perhaps don't have everything under wraps if you're missing a player or two. So he could go for that. More than likely, I would say he's going to be looking for that kitchen flank. If you get yourself into dining, you can have that hatch control. You can stop them pushing in and going for the default plant. That's probably what Lolo's going to be eyeing up here.
Dan just going to give himself away there at the door. No hard breach really here to speak of, Shepard. used all of his Selmas earlier on. Dan's just going to push himself straight all the way through. Shepard, the AK-12 there, ripping through, taking Gemini out of action. Lolo going to be coming through blue here. Has got a nice line of sight onto the doorway, but with the plants already going down, it's going to be very tricky. We do have a Maestro camera there. It is going to dish out a little bit of damage, but the damage is not going to be enough. Shepard, he might be lit, but he's managed to get the kit down, and now it means that we need to see a bit more of a push here, a bit more aggression from Mkers on this retake. Lolo, he's going to fall, and it's going to leave a lot to do for poor old Dora. Decides to reload the Alder in a last-ditch attempt to get something done here. He's going to have to push himself around, needs to find a couple of kills, is going to get caught out there by the clone. There is Shepard still in sight, don't forget. So Dora really going on a bit of a wild goose chase here. Time is, of course, of the essence. Basher going to be the last player there to find that kill. Nice plant from Shepard, really taking the bull by the horns there and bursting on through into sight.
Yeah, Dan sees an opportunity, slips himself in, has that pillar control. Also, keep in mind, they didn't even open a wall, Ollie. I don't know where they did. I don't know where they used the Selmas, but they didn't have any left. I think they opened the... Are you sure?
He opened the trench wall.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, trench wall was open, but that was it. That was the only thing.
Very strange to see them open trench and then he just walks through the door instead. They did open long angle, which was probably the one that you would have wanted out of any of them is long angle, I think. Sure, trench is nice and all, but I think being able to cut off anyone inside connector, it helps. Disappointed with Lolo. Didn't go for the flank. Goes back to site instead. I think you chance your hand. You're 6-1 up. Why not go for the flank?
Yeah, I was expecting Lolo to go for the flank. I was expecting the Oryx to be a massive player in that last round, especially when we saw the positioning of everything.
Mm-hmm. And also
3-3 on the roam player.
Outsiders left dining.
Got your Oryx. Yeah, it was a little bit strange. Seen a couple of 6-picks come through here. We're swapping an ace for a thermite, and we're getting a lion involved into the action as well. Outsiders. I mean, there's still quite a long way to go here. Mkers don't have much point. Really poised, primed, and ready. But if there's one team that are going to be used to the pressure of a big day, the pressure of a big game, it is going to be this Outsiders team. Joystick again finding Acqui on that opener here. That's twice in a row we've seen that engagement go in Joystick's favour on this opening kill. That's the kind of aggression that I worry about with Mkers demo. I know that they've got a very handsome buffer here. I know that they're looking poised and ready to win the game, but you can't be giving a team like Outsiders that little opportunity every single round.
Mm. You don't want to be giving away the first pick just constantly, do you? Can't be letting that happening.
Is this a case where Solace is getting baited? Like, is the Solace trying too hard?
I don't know. I think just Acqui. I mean, again, they have a very comfortable lead. We've seen this sometimes. It's too comfy almost. You get a little bit overconfident a few times, which would probably be the only thing I think you could say.
I thought you were going to say you get a bit over-comfortable. I was like, I don't think there's such a thing.
I can make up words. You know, anyone can make up a word.
Oh, I just don't know if you can be too comfy. Like,
so, I mean...
IRL, like... Oh, sorry. See you later, Dan. Just pokes his head through there and is immediately taken out. Always going to find a nice nade over onto Lolo. Lion scan coming through just to try and bide a little bit of time. After that opening pick, we do see the advantage still here in Outsiders' favour. It is one of the advantages there and something that is just a binary numbers thing that if you're able to pick that first kill, you will be able to just trade and you will always be out there on top as long as you go 1 for 1. Sorry, really trying to make something happen here. Kind of telegraphing his location a little bit. Gemini just going to come up to Piano and try and assist somewhat with that wall open. It's going to be very tricky, especially with Shepard allowed to walk straight through. Gemini, he's almost let him cross there. We've still got Dora from below. Dora does have a C4, but does he have the information? Stuns coming out here. Gemini feeling the pinch. He too will fall inside of Piano, and it's all down to Dora. 30 seconds is a long old time, and with all those angles open, it was only a matter of time. Shepard is going to be able to pick that final kill through. Doesn't get much of a visual, but he obviously doesn't need it. Didn't want to risk getting the plant down, knew that there was potential for that C4, and keeps Outsiders in it for one more round.
Mm-hmm. As indeed. I'm just looking over some nostalgia stats, Ollie. So let's go with 2018. Right. So we'll go with the 2018 first. Why is my thing not? Hold on a minute. We're having technical difficulties. I.e., my thing's not loading. Load. Oh, it's not loading.
Why are we going to 2008? See, I'm not surprised it's not loading.
Because we're going to take a trip down memory lane just to highlight how good, 5
years ago demo.
It counts for something, It counts for something. So, way back then.
Is this like a book that you've got? We were still writing on paper in 2018.
It'll be there for Christmas. So in 2018, Joystick had 156 kills. Don't know what he did in 2019.
What did he do in 2019?
He went from that all the way up to 661.
Sheesh.
That's what he did.
Very quick rise indeed.
Like, the guy had a monumental rise. Like, this guy hit the scene with a run and start. Let's put it that way.
Well, I remember when Joystick started, it was like, bang, this player just out of nowhere.
Cyborg.
Like, yeah. The absolute cyborg. Happens with a couple of players, though. You can think of a couple of players that, sort of have that big burst and big impact onto the scene. Some people just have a gift playing Siege. And I enjoy watching it because I wasn't given that same gift to play, I'm afraid.
Nope. Your talent lies elsewhere. Such as...
Still looking for it, yeah. Interesting pick-up here onto the IQ. I haven't seen any IQ play up until now. Obviously, it does something to combat a couple of things that are being brought here specifically. You've got the Electroclaw, you've got, of course, the Solace as well. But it would be nice to see a couple of nades in the lineup. You feel like that's something outsiders are potentially lacking at the moment. Akwi, instead of getting himself involved in just about every opening engagement possible, he's tucked himself right into the basement for now and is ready and waiting on the flank. Seems as though outsiders are either unaware or happy to let him reside down there for the time being, as their focus is very site-centric at the minute.
Yeah, it is. I mean, they've done the first job, which is get that wall open, haven't they, Ollie? That top office wall that makes sure that nobody can play the angles from above. It means that whenever you eventually move in for that plant, inside a kitchen and inside a dining, there'll be no issues. Makers, probably now, if you're Makers, you're starting to think, okay, we need to retake. Because that's you cannot give the attackers the upstairs control. You need to try and get some kills back here, and always going to be first man up to try and see if he can find something. Sorry, he rotates at the wrong time, and outsiders, Ollie, are starting to grow into this round.
Outsiders are growing into the round, and they're growing into the fixture here. They're not going to be phased by being up against the match point. They're taking it every round as it comes. The Makers, it's starting to look more and more as though they are the team that need a miracle to make something happen here. There is still a hefty advantage for them. You've got the positions of the players here, and with Solar getting absolutely ripped open, Lolo is unlikely to be safe for long. The rotation now has been caught out as well, but a couple of quick kills do come through. Lolo, he'd gone unnoticed. Akwi now has a big part to play. Shepard going to get the diffuser down. Akwi essentially in a 1v1 with Dan and loses the engagement at range. Dan there just holding things down. Got a nice little indication there with a couple of the tracer shots coming through. Shepard had no choice but to stick that diffuser just to extend the clock a little bit. Slowly but surely, outsiders are getting themselves back into this. And it looks as though we are going to have a timeout for Makers. No surprise. Honestly, in my opinion, could be coming around too late.
Imagine if they won that first round. Think about it.
Entirely different game. To be honest, it probably takes you a round to get over losing that first round. I don't care who you are as a team. It's a weird round.
Do you know what I love the most as well in this game? Look who the two best performers are for outsiders.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it?
We couldn't script it better. We couldn't.
I'm telling you, the band are back together.
Unbelievable.
We're going to re-release all the greatest hits.
Right, come on, Pengu. Back you come. In you get. Get him back in.
It's going to be like the...
Get Lackey and Giddens reunited.
It's like artists do, where they do like the platinum album or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is the 20-year platinum edition.
Roll back the years. Who else is like a classic name that you don't see no more? Anyone? No, none springs to mind. No, just
there will be some.
We're all forgetting.
Springs to mind.
They're just forgotten about, are they?
Everyone's forgotten until you remember. Back upstairs we go.
What about your Adams? Your King George's, well, he's still kind of around, isn't he?
Yeah.
Best invitational player to ever touch the game. Fun fact.
The one time. The one and one.
1-1. Who else has a better percent record win? 100% win record. Nobody else has that. You can't go against that. King George is the best player to ever play an invitational. Prove me wrong. Exactly. We could have a free timer.
We could.
Troy Canadian. Sniffing after it.
If there's anyone to do it as well, I think it'd be Troy.
Yeah.
Entirely different conversation, though. I mean, we should be sat here pitting outsiders to win the whole thing, right?
I mean, yeah, I guess so. Be a nice one, wouldn't it?
You have to get through Chalet first, and so far it doesn't look like it's going well. They've gone for a bit of a rush execute here with Gemini. He was aware and ready. Acqui going to shut down Pasha as well. This could be a very quick end to what has otherwise been a nice little comeback here from outsiders. But it looks as though they're going to not quite throw it away, but attempt a rush, and maybe it wasn't the right time. Confidence potentially just a little bit too high here.
Tried to out Makers, Ollie. They've went for essentially the same kind of play where you have the Amari coming in double window. You had that bathroom jump in, but Makers, they're quick to it. You know, that's one thing you cannot pull the wool over their eyes. They know everything about Chalet. It's a good map for them. You know, you look at some of the attacks they've went for. Oh, and that kind of sums up the game, essentially, doesn't it? A little bit of a disaster there from Always, but yeah, I mean, the round's done. This map has to be done. No way.
It seems unfortunate to go out this way because outsiders have made some really good plays to get themselves up to this point. They didn't start the game in the best fashion. They've clutched back a couple of rounds there, which you could tell the thought process was there. You could tell all the fundamentals were really starting to click. And then they just go for a rush round, and
which isn't them. That's not them, in my opinion.
That isn't their style.
Yeah.
Their style is slow and steady. Their style is do the same thing every single time, and count your opponents out on their mistakes and really take advantage of that. But you're the constant. That is the recipe for this style of success. Still 50 seconds, 2 people alive, 2 versus 5. The craziest thing we've seen all day. Acqui on pretty low health as well. He's 1 shot away. Yeah, immediately taken on out. Hatch now open. We are seeing a couple of pings come upstairs as well. 35 seconds left to go. Shepard does still have a call and a bit of utility. A couple of stuns in the hands of Always too. So potential here to get some value out of that. Could even be a little bit of a phone hack on the cards as Shepard has that ability, but 20 seconds is probably not the time. Maybe need to start thinking about getting the diffuser down. I tell you what, Demo, they've got some hard-hitting guns here and they don't need to land too many shots to make it all happen. Lolo, however, equally has a very hard-hitting weapon, and he's going to find the last 2 there, just posted up inside a bathroom. Final round that really took us on an emotional roller coaster of will they, won't they? But ultimately, that game really coming down to Makers on their attacks. An impeccable job of taking advantage over on Chalet. All started with one of the weirdest rounds I think I've ever seen, Demo.
Yeah, I think it's definitely up there with some weird stuff that we've seen. Yeah, I mean, Makers they have that confidence. I think they're a young side. I don't think they're scared of anyone. That's one thing about Makers. I do feel as though Makers, it's just, there's something about this team where, sure, sometimes we see them, maybe not hit where they need to, not win the games that they're meant to. Like, for example, look at how they did in SI Quals 21. They were extreme there. Then you fast forward and look at what they did in CL. They did nothing in CL. Remember that last year, CL, Ollie? They did nothing. Again, then you fast forward. Again, they're another favorite team. They didn't do it in CL the way they wanted to. Then they come here and they're looking great. It's a very turbulent team where you just don't know what you're gonna get. If you get a bad Makers, they'll roll over for you. If not, they'll bite the arm off you. That's for sure.
And that consistency, at least I'm hoping it is going to come when this roster matures even more. But how long do we give that? When do we start calling them an experienced side? Because they have been here before. I guess time will tell. We're going to throw this one back over to the desk, and then they are going to break this one down and get us set up for map number 2, which will be Clubhouse. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in just a few.